Welcome back everyone, another buying guide, but this time for an older device like the iPhone 6s. So I've been talking a lot about the iPhone 10, 10R, 10s. Now these are a couple things to watch out for before you go and pick up an iPhone 6s, at least in the used market. If you're buying it brand new, then it doesn't really matter. Now in my opinion, if you're buying one of these phones, I would probably not pay over $150 for like a 128 gig model of these things. If you're going to that price tag, if you're going up there, I would just personally buy like an iPhone 7 or spend a little bit more money and buy an iPhone 8 Plus. That thing will last you longer, so keep that in mind. And I'll leave some of those linked down in the description below for the cheapest prices that I find. But this one, I mean, the 6S is still a tremendous phone in my opinion. It still has a lot of value and everything. Now, one of the most important things that I always tell people with these specific iPhones, with the home button and everything, is to make sure that the home button does work and Touch ID does work. On a lot of phones from back in the day and all this stuff, a lot of people have, even me personally, but I never resold them, I just kept them for myself. I would replace the screen, and when you do that, the Touch ID / home button kind of doesn't function properly with the screen. So with this one, if I were to replace the screen, the home button would still work, so I'd still be able to double click it and everything, but the Touch ID would not work. So you want to make sure that you're not getting random pop-ups like, oh, Touch ID is not activated or whatever. If you are, then that means that panel probably is an aftermarket panel and you will not get Touch ID working. You can still get the home button working and you can still type in the passcode, but you will not have your fingerprint sensor working. So keep that in mind. That's one of the very first things I would recommend people to do. A very novice mistake. I've been burnt about it in the past, but that's one thing I would probably recommend. Another thing, when people do replace that screen, the water resistance does actually come out. So what you want to do is you can always look at the sides of the phone and kind of get an idea if the phone has been replaced or not. And sometimes if there is, there might be a little bit of a gap. And if there is, then it doesn't necessarily mean that, the screen has been replaced. But sometimes if you see some of that water seal, which is like kind of like a small like little plastic piece or whatever, it's kind of dark. If you see that kind of sticking out, that probably means that the screen has been replaced. And that might mean that the phone is probably, has lost its water resistance. Even though it's not IP certified, it still had a little bit of water resistance within it. So that's another minor thing. Again, a lot of people might not know about it or might not even care, but that's one thing I would recommend looking out for. Also small cosmetic things. As you can see, this one has a huge bend in it, but I don't really care about it too much. You want to make sure all the parts are functional, screen, there's not that many cracks or anything, bezels are around it, all that stuff. You also want to check the IMEI number, which you can get there by going into settings. You want to scroll down into general, you want to scroll into about, and down here somewhere will be the IMEI number. I don't really care because I use this phone, but you want to verify the IMEI number, make sure it's not stolen or anything like that. That's a huge thing. I mean, you don't want to buy a phone and have it not activated. Also, if you're buying an iPhone 6s, you want to make sure that you don't see, a user signed into this account still. Now, if it's a person, you're buying it from them, that's okay. But if it's a random user or you just bought the phone and there's still a user linked in like this, you want to contact that person and let them know that, because you will not be able to utilize this phone if you don't know that password or if you're not that user, so keep that in mind. Other slight things, headphone jack, make sure that's working, home button, make sure that's working like I stated before, but really other than that, those are really the main things. But like I stated, for those people who can spend a little bit more money, if you have it in you, I would recommend buying an iPhone 8, 8 Plus. Those phones are tremendous, or if you can even scrump up a little bit more, getting an iPhone SE2 is probably the best way to go. So that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.